Hi, I'm 𝗿𝗏𝗱𝘆 with 𝗲𝗁 Consulting. I spent 3 years as the Deputy Director of the Indiana Broadband Office. I was there when BEAD began. Performance testing. NTIA has put out some benchmarks for the actual performance testing. As we all know, BEAD is building to a minimum of 100 over 20 speeds, a latency of under 100 seconds on an annual basis. Keeping in mind that those are the minimums, but each broadband serviceable location, there will be some sort of documentation involved that those speeds are being met. Most states are going to be asking you to report on a semi-annual basis, starting 6 months after your grant agreement is executed. It's not a one-time thing, it's for the life of the federal interest period. We know that the letter of credit can be very cumbersome. We know that it ties up capital, but you do have those two options, the 25% for the letter of credit or the performance bond for 100%. So getting with your financial team early and making those decisions early in the process is going to be extremely important. If you have projects on tribal lands, consent is going to be required there. You'll be responsible for getting that, and you're responsible for identifying locations early and coordinating with the state and with the tribal governments. Working with state broadband offices and tribal nations across the country, I've seen consent take as much as 6 months at times. So early planning is very important there. One thing that I don't think is really getting enough attention right now is this 10-year federal interest period for these broadband projects, 10 years after the year you close out your subgrant. So if you close out in 2027, federal interest runs until 2037. During the entire period, the federal government retains interest in that BEAD-funded equipment and property. And also, the new guidance talks extensively about not requiring additional federal subsidies to manage the BEAD project over the long term. So, simply stated, the USF funds aren't going to be aren't going to be available for use to run your BEAD funded networks for the next years to come. So the ISPs that are going to succeed with BEAD and the construction companies and engineering companies that work with them will be the ones that treat this as a 10-year partnership with the federal government, not simply a one-time construction grant. It's interesting, most think that with NTIA's strong involvement in this, that they will be reviewing the subgrantee agreement, but that is actually between the ISPs and the states. Get your legal and financial teams involved before you sign, not after. These grant agreements are quite cumbersome, but they are thorough and they are needed. States will be holding you accountable to those grant agreements as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about resources because you don't have to go through this alone. NTIA has published a ton of resources and guidance. I mentioned the ESAPTT user guides. There's also what they call the Smart Start series. I would encourage you to read and learn about that. And then the performance measures and policy notices guidance that is also on their website. As I mentioned before, Broadband USA is a technical assistance hubs. They provide templates, FAQs, and explainer documents. However, what I've created for you is I've distilled all of this federal guidance into a 10-slide deck that you can download. It covers every deadline, every requirement, every new obligation in a format that you can actually use. Now, how does 𝗲𝗁 Consulting come in? We work with ISPs, engineering firms, and construction companies on BEAD compliance before, during, and after deployment. This means that helping you prepare for the subgrantee execution, setting up your NEPA, milestone tracking, building your performance testing protocols, and making sure you're audit ready for that full 10-year interest period. My background working in the Indiana Broadband Office, plus my work with state broadband offices and national associations across the country, means that I know both sides of the table. I know what states are looking for in their monitoring, and I know what NTIA is looking for in their oversight. And I know where ISPs are getting tripped up along the way. So here's what you should do today. Number one, download the slide deck, review it with your leadership team. Number two, if you have any questions or need help getting ready for your subgrant execution, reach out to myself or the team at 𝗲𝗁. We can do focus consulting on a specific situation, your service area, your compliance gaps, your timeline, whatever that may be. We're here to help. BEAD funding is transformational for regional broadband, but it comes with strings. The ISPs who get this right are the ones who treat compliance as serious as they do their construction work. The ones that don't are going to face payment holds, enforcement actions, and worst cases, even some clawbacks. Don't wait until you're behind to ask for help. Be proactive. Download the deck. Reach out to 𝗲𝘳. Let's make sure your BEAD project is a success story. Once again, I'm 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝘀𝘆 with 𝗲𝘳 Consulting. Thanks for watching, and let's keep in touch.